Hey everyone, it's Gunpla Customs here, and today we're going to be doing scribing basics. So for today, we're going to be covering a lot of topics, but we're going to be taking our time through each one. All right, but real quick, I'm going to give a little bit about myself. Um, as far as the hobby, I've been in this hobby for about 5 years now. I've done everything from just snapping kits together to breaking kits, which I do on every single build I do. Even on commissions I break things, um, but I also have done weathering and LEDs modifications, everything like that. So I've done a little bit of everything. I'd say a jack of all trades, but not a master of all. But I'm getting there. I'm learning just like you. So as far as real quick on my personal history, 12-year Navy veteran, submarines, fire control, missiles, torpedoes, tracking contacts. That's all that I've done. Also a bit of instructing, so hopefully that will come into play here and it'll be very useful for you. All right, so our objectives today, we're going to discuss the tools used. So for example, the size of chisels. We're going to talk about the 0.1 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter, like what is best for scribing. We'll get into more of that later on. Um, Size of scribe tape, so 2 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter. There's all sorts of sizes and brands that are out there. We'll get into that as well. The most important thing is that we're going to talk about the scribing designs. So making the designs with a pencil, which gets into my next topic, which is reference points and symmetry. So again, those are very huge, and even for those beginners, having like reference points where you can place tape at really help eyeball, get that symmetry, to make like arms and legs equal. On top of that, we're going to save the best for last. So it's going to be removing any unwanted lines. So it'll be a line that, say, you don't want, like you thought it was good and thought it's not for you anymore. And we're also going to discuss like flyaway lines from pressing too hard on your scribe too early, your chisel just going off, deep lines, and how to fix those using cement, putty, various products out there that can get the job done and get those unwanted lines filled in perfectly. But of course, we're going to start with the easiest, which is describing existing lines. All right, so anything that has like a raised edge, just running your chisel along there. And then of course, the last thing is that your scribe is a chisel. So understanding when to use your chisel as a scribe and when to use it as a chisel. And so that'll go into more of like some stubborn lines, making sure lines are evenly deep, things like that. All right. And so what you'll get from that, as well as from this course, is that you'll feel comfortable to take that first step and make that first line, and understand that those fancy line designs that you see out there, it's not as intimidating as you will expect. Like once you've created your first line, because it starts with one line and then you do 2 lines and then 3 lines, and you're creating new reference points, and then it just takes off from there. So ultimately you'll have your own masterpiece. Even if you do 1 or 2 lines, it's fine. So yeah, it's going to be great, what you make, and most importantly, the confidence that you'll get from this course. All right, without any further ado, we're going to get this course started. So here we go. Take a time. Just go ahead and quickly remove. So by doing this too, it also helps so you don't have to sand it so much, because the purpose of sanding is so you can remove that raised plastic from right there. So sake of time, I'm just going to go in there. I'm just going to use my thin sanding stick and go right in that groove there. Right there to remove that spot in there. So with that white line, you'll definitely be able to see it a lot better. So let me sand this and you can see. The sander doesn't always get it. And so again, that's why personally I like to use my scribe to run up against it. Just a little bit to get that move plastic off. And like I said earlier, I do tend to bounce back and forth between various scribes. Yes. So Sunil asked, so the sanding is for removing flash from the chiseling. So yes, that's exactly what it's for. So it's to remove that and also smooth down that area so it's flush with the rest of the plastic. It's a great question. You can see a little bit better here. Let me adjust my lighting. There we go. Oh, sorry, you get that on the way. Okay, now let's get some panel liner in there. Let's see. So this panel liner I'm using is this panel accent from Tamiya, and it's just a very thin down black. So pretty much like ink. So it's just so you guys can see the definition and how easier it is that the panel liner will run through versus with a scribe line versus not a scribe line. You just hold it there. And then are you guys able to see that pretty well? So it went through there very easily. Now the other side, I didn't scribe the line at all. And I'm just gonna apply it in the same spot. Doesn't look good at all. Especially if you paint, it's not gonna run. It ran a little bit, but it's not really as defined as a as a line that has been scribed, especially a pre-existing line. Like that's definitive. You can see it. You have now created definition. So I'll go ahead and put this away. Okay. All right, so yeah, so Sarah had a good point. That's a great way to test the depth of your panel lines. So those of you that were asking. So now you can actually see a raised area versus a lower area, but also for those of you that paint, it's so much easier for you to run masking tape along here and to put in your secondary color. Okay. Oh, that's not Sarah, that's Willer, by the way. All right. Okay, so does anyone have any questions so far? I know I've been talking a lot. And remember, questions are free, fire away. We have plenty of time. We're only like 20 minutes into this, so we pretty much have all day. Okay, so since we talked about the easy part, which is scribing pre-existing lines, now we're going to get to the bread and butter, scribing new lines. All right, so I'll move this over. This was also just, I was going to use as an example, some pre-existing lines right here. I was going to run the scribe across and then down the center. But we'll talk about that after. So, all right. So first we're going to do this lesson with these two pieces here. So so what I like to do when I scribe is I do something using what I personally call like a reference point, something that helps guide me to really put tape placement as well as help with symmetry, because that's the most important part. So this is the left and right part for the chest of the Psycho-Zaku workout. So I'm going to raise it up a little bit. One spot is scribed, as you can see, with the primer on it, and then the other side is not. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about tape placement as far as reference points. Okay. All right. So first, though, I did kind of cheat already because I already know what lines I'm going to do. But for the sake of this lesson, we're going to talk about it. All right, so the reason why you want to use a pencil is because you can design your lines. You can see if it makes sense. And what I mean by makes sense is, let's see. Okay. So you can design your lines and you can see that if it makes sense. So on a build, is one area more scribed than another area is? So does, say, like, just for an example, are your legs more detailed? Do they have more lines or more technical lines than, say, like the upper body or whatnot? So from there you can kind of make that determination yourself. All right, so I'm going to take a quick pause real quick though, but does anyone have any, like, what they're working on right now? Does anyone have any questions about like pre-existing lines? So just like you can turn on your camera just so I can see what if you have any questions before I move on to this part. Give it a couple seconds. Yeah, so just a good opportunity to put this into practice, what we covered about like the pre-existing lines. Like if you have a build in front of you right now, if you need any help with like running your scribe or whatnot. All right, so Asperger said, so just watching and sort of mimicking what it do, but with a high grade RX-78. Let's see, I'd like to know about scribing with anything bigger than a 0.4 and getting even scribes. So we'll discuss about 0.4 and higher. We can discuss a little bit later in the lesson. A lot more of that will be covered in Gunpla Luke's advanced course. So when it comes to using those larger chisels to like create notches for like extra definition. So for example, in this Psychozaku's arm, so let me move the shoulder armor, but it might be hard to see. But right here and right there, I used like a 0.4 millimeter. But again, that's something that we'll touch base a little bit later on, but a lot of that will be covered in Gunpla Luke's course. But for the time being, though, we're gonna just keep on going. But good question. We will talk about that a little bit, and also at the end, we can one-on-one as well. Let's see some of the older kids. Let's see. A second. Let's see. Some of the older kits have round corners for existing lines. Is there an easy way to go around it? So round corners. So for example, like Xeon kits. And let's see. Effectively draw with pencil on bare plastic. So we are going to talk about that, Redford, here very shortly. Let's see, for the round corners and existing lines, I admit it's a little more difficult. It's a little bit more tricky with that process. There is some eyeballing involved. It's using like a raised round edge, like if you're doing a Kshatriya, or for example, the shoulder of a Zaku. Scribe tape tends to have a hard time to really stay in place. You can use masking tape, but I caution you to really take your time and be extremely careful. Personally, for raised round edges, if they're very raised, like a Kshatriya's binder, I will try my best to always use the scribe tape first. And then if I need to, as a last resort, I'll go to like a masking tape. But that's just because I have some experience with it. But for you, I would say start with beginning like a couple lines that are close to that raised area to kind of help you get over that raised portion. So like start with, like, for example, on the shoulder, I did a line from here to here. So I created a point there and I created a point here. So from there, I have a reference point, which is this long flat line here. From there, you can see the width is exactly where I ran my scribe tape. And so for all I needed for my scribe tape to stick was from here to here. So it stuck a lot better by creating these two lines, and then I built off of that. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay. All right. All right, so we're just gonna move on then. No question, then all right. All right, so back to what I was getting at is that, so I did mention about reference. Oh, wait. Sorry, I don't mean existing lines on round surface area, but rather flat plastic. Oh, Curtis, I was answering Redford's question, but for yours, we're gonna get to that. So yeah, Curtis asked, let's see, some of the older kids. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. You did ask that, not Redford. All right, so can you scroll down, please? So I don't mean existing lines on round surface area, but rather flat plastic. But existing lines have the round corners. Sorry, I'm trying to picture that. Flat plastic, but existing lines. Curtis, you mind turning your mic on? Yeah, sorry, I'm not understanding. Just so I can
Sorry,
get better.
yes. So basically, instead of a square edge corner, like a 90-degree corners, some of the kids I have, they have a rounded off corner. It's almost like a
Oh,
circle.
okay, okay. Let's see. Do I have a part here? Okay. So, bear with me. I think I have some. Okay. Give me just a moment. Let me grab a prescribed kit I have. Okay. Let me just remove the arm on it. All right. So, are you referring to? All right. So this is a shoulder I have of a master grade justice. Are you referring to getting, say, this line on this edge and this line on this edge to connect with this area? But I know you mentioned it's rounded.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can see this. It's a little hard to, oh, I lost it. Sorry, for example, can you, I'm not sure if you can see it. Probably not. But
Okay.
basically on the legs there is a sort of a rounded corner. Uh,
Oh, I see.
so I'm
Okay.
just curious, using a scribe line where you're trying to make it as straight as possible, where but this is more sort of rounded off. So I'm not quite sure if there's easy way to go about it.
Um, so yeah, Willer was actually took my thunder. I was going to mention you can use to me a masking tape for the curves to help guide you. With the masking tape, you don't press your scribe against it per se, but it will help you eyeball where you need to go, and that's where you very lightly work that in with the masking tape. What you can also do is kind of what I mentioned on that shoulder piece is where, like, say the front of that leg, you know, you can start your line, and then on the other side, on the inside of the leg, for example, you'll start another line, and then you get that masking tape in the center, and you can kind of help like connect the dots.
Ah, okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see. Before I move on, just want to make sure you don't have any questions. Let's see. How would you effectively draw a pencil on bare plastic? Okay. All right. So Redford, for your question, so how would you effectively draw with pencil on bare plastic? Um, I'm actually about to show you. Okay. All right. So I did talk about reference points. and which we're going to get to, but Redford had a great question. I was going to cover that next, but we can switch gears a little bit. I'm flexible. No worries, Weller. No worries. I really appreciate the backup. So thank you for the backup. Okay. So we're just going to use this large flat piece. Well, it's somewhat flat. It's a xenon piece. For the most part, it's flat. Um, so this is the rear skirt of the Psychozaku. So you can see how it's real shiny. Like it still has the like residue from when it was in the mold. All right. So when it comes to drawing the lines, you'll see a noticeable difference between drawing a line on this waxy surface per se versus another like a sanded down surface. All right, so right here I just have pencil. You can use any pencil that works for you. So I'll just like scribble my lines in here. This is just so you can see like the difference. So I do have lines in here. It might be hard to see with my lining, so bear with me. But I have lines in there, but as I'm working with the plastic and like I say I have a design that I want to do, I can just they easily come off. Right. So I can just wipe them off with my thumb. So it's like say if I want to make a design or it's like I want to run my tape along here. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Did you do it? Oh, okay. There we go. My screen. Now I can actually see my screen. Thank you. All right. So yeah, let's say I just want to make run a line around here over that reference point and then there. So it's like you can kind of see it, but not really. So that's where I get my 1000 grit sanding stick here. And I'm just going to lightly sand the surface down. Nothing crazy. Just getting off that like that waxy, like that residue from when it was on the mold. This also creates a more gritty surface for your tape to stick to a lot better, in my opinion. All right, so nothing crazy here, and then you can just wipe it off, blow it. Um, I like to use like a little towel here, microfiber type. No, I'm sorry, I can't talk. A microfiber towel. No, I don't use words today. Okay. All right, so now we have this surface here. So not as reflective. Now you'll see the difference when we draw our design. So you notice right away is it's on there a lot better. I didn't have to use much effort to get it. And then you just lightly draw it in. So this is so you can visually see, what your idea is. And does it make sense? Do you like it? If not, then it's okay. You just get rid of it and you can just do something else. All right. Does that answer your question, Redbird? All right, awesome. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we're gonna go and we're going to start scribing some lines. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, I cheated a little bit by scribing the lines I already want to scribe. There it is. You should be able to see it there. So I already have the design I want to do. So I scribed it and I threw some primer on it so you can see. Which I probably should have did that with the other points, but lesson learned. All right, so I want symmetry. So we're going to get one side to look like the other. So this is where the reference points come in. So reference points, I like to say, is like dots here, corners, things like that. So this is places where you can run your tape and you're guaranteed symmetry. Like you can't go wrong. So for example, I want a line that goes from here to right there. That's what I want. I know it's a little, there we go. So what I would do in this case is I'll just get my scribe tape and I'll have the top of the tape on this edge here, and then I'll have the top of it, let's see, hit this part right here. So it's like when you create that, it's guaranteed, like it's straight, like it's gonna work. Like it will match the other side. So of course you can erase as well. Okay, and then after that, so it's like with scribing, it all starts with one line. I can't emphasize that enough. So one line at a time. You get one line, you do another line on top of that, and then you just continuously build on top of those lines. And by doing that, then you can come up with like a more advanced look or a more technical look, if you will. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna get started. All right. So I already have scribe tape that is pre-cut out. And again, this is the 0.2 millimeter display tape. So I'm not going to use that piece. It's too long. I'm going to use shorter pieces. I'm going to grab 2 of them. Okay. So I have 2 here. And again, let's see. You can see the lines in the tape. So that also helps you with tape placement if you're doing like more advanced, designs and whatnot. So, all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece here and my middle finger, and I'm going to run the top of it with this corner right there, and the top of it is going to be there too. So that's what I mean by reference point. There might be another term for it, but that's what I call it. Okay, and then this is where you make sure you have the tape exactly where you want it. Okay, got our first one there, and the next one is I'm going to take it from this corner here. Let me see. Okay. This corner here is going to be the top of the tape, and the top of the tape is going to hit this point right there. So as long as you hit those 2 points, you have guaranteed straight line, right? So there will be symmetry, or at least I hope there will be. No, there will be. So take your time in your placement. Brush, strip straight. So I got it. So it might look like in the video. Let's see. Okay, so you can see how I have the top of my tape lined up with this corner and at the bottom of this point. All right, and this, before we even start, this is where you would do the same on the other side. So you're going to get your tape and then you're going to verify the symmetry. Your tape placement's the same. This is a way to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay. All right. This tape isn't. Nope. Cut this one and make it another one. Okay. What you do on one side, you want to make sure you do it on the other side as well. So even though I already have this line here, I'm going to do it to show. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I already have a discrepancy. I noticed on this. So on this here, I have my tape on top of the circle, not under it. So let me remove this tape. See, so always want to, that's how you back yourself up. So you adjust the tape, boom, top of the tape right there. And I make sure my other side is on this corner and it is aligned. There we go. So see, I would have messed up already. So there you go. See, that's why you always want to do both sides before you move on. So tape it, make sure it's in the same place. If you need to adjust it, like I do with this one, just lift it up a little bit, move it over. Okay. All right, let me get this other tape on. And then I'll make the line. Do the same on the other side, again, to back myself up to make sure my lines will be symmetrical before I start digging. Okay. All right, so you can see how I use those reference points on both sides. I would say that's pretty symmetrical. And then we will make our line. All right. So with this, when having your chisel go against the tape, just a little bit of pressure against the tape, just so you can feel your scribe running along it. So you don't need to really necessarily push your scribe against it, but just enough to where you can feel it on the end of your scribe. And you just lightly make the lines. And now you're supposed to be more raised with your chisel, but for the sake of this demonstration, you can see what I'm doing. I am kind of going at an angle, but just very lightly. I made a couple passes, a few light passes, and then I'll do the same thing here. So let's see, and see, there we go. You can see the line in the primer. I know I should have did this with that other part earlier, but you can see, and then you just finish the line up. So when you're scribing lines at intersecting points, you start with one line, like how I did earlier. I started this line going out, and then the next line start at that intersecting point, and I'll very lightly go outward. And so now I have my line. So I didn't go too deep in the lines. I went very light just to see where I'm at. And if I need to, I can fix my mistakes. But so there's your line there, right? Nice and easy. I went very light. This is not a deep line. Now, by making this like shallow line, I can see, like, does my line make sense? Am I good with it? Am I like, I'll check my symmetry real quick, and I'll say, like, okay, like, does this look symmetrical? Let's see if we can get it going. It's like real kind of choppy. All right. Let me just make this line a little bit wider. There we go. All right. There you go. Now you can see it. So I would say that's symmetrical. And so from there, like I said, you start with one line and then you just build off of it. One line, two lines, and then 3 and 4. So now we have a new reference point. So now we have this point here in the middle. That's our new reference point. So now we can build off of that. But first, let me make this line a little bit deeper, and then we'll move on. Does anyone have any questions so far? I think a second. I've seen 1 and 2. Okay, moving on. All right. Let me make this line deeper. Where again, I'm taking my time because my line, there is a line, but it's not deep. So my scribe can still go off. And if it does, then I'll just fix it. But we'll talk about that, of course, here soon. Again, I'm just taking my time. I'm not really pressing. The weight of the scribe is doing the work. And now I'm going to go into the other side because with this particular part, this right here is a pre-existing line, but it's very deep. And so there's a part of the plastic in there that I need to get my chisel in there, which I'm going to do. So, and then this is where your scribe is first and foremost a chisel. So it's like, yes, I can just run it in here easy, but there's also the chance that it can run off a little bit on this end here. It could round out this corner, and I'm not wanting to do that. So I'll just add an angle. So let me get about right here. I'll just get my chisel on this line. And I'll just, oops, I'm not even in the line. Okay. And just a little push. There we go. That's all it took. And what that did is it helped move some of the plastic out of the way so I can run the rest of this line. I can guide my chisel through. Okay. Nice and easy. Again, take your time. You can keep the tape on if you want, but for the sake of this lesson, I'm just taking it off early so you can see. Push that a little more, and then I'll get in there. Let's put it there. It's kind of dark. Let me get this exhaust out. All right. And then when your line is created, that's when you can create some pressure. You don't need a lot of pressure. Just, say like the weight of your hand a little bit in there. There we go. We have our line. Now we need to finish the line though, and we need to scribe in here. So since there's already a groove in here because it's a corner, we can just take our chisel from that point of that line and just very lightly like run it through this corner here or this end point. Let's see. And then really pressing. Okay. Okay, so now we're ready to do our next line. So you can leave it like this, and it's up to you ultimately. This hobby, as they say, is free in the sense of your art, your design. If you just want to run a straight line from here to here, or you want to just do a circle, whatever you want, like it's up to you. But now we have our initial line. Now we're going to make this line interesting by adding another line. So, and we're going to go through the same process we did with this one. So now I'm going to take my scribe tape. I'm going to run it 90 degrees perpendicular through here. And then I'll run the top of the other piece of tape from this corner right here to this, to this corner here. And then where the lines or the tape meets, we make our line. All right, as I'm doing this, does anyone have any questions so far though? Keeping up so far? All right, awesome. All right. Let me get my tape placement. Actually, and it's like if you forget how you placed your tape, you can just run along the previous piece to get a reminder. Okay, so on this one here, I did top of my tape was up here. The top of my tape was in this part here. So the same thing. And now I have it inverted. Bear with me. Okay. I've got this point here. Now take my tape. I'll run it perpendicular. This corner down here. This is where a little bit of eyeballing comes in. But fortunately for this tape, it has the lines in it so I can see if my line's good or not. My tape, I mean, correction. Okay. So let's see if I can get close enough. But there's a black line on this tape here, which is right on top of this panel line here. So it's like, I know that's lined up here. Also eyeballing it, I can see that this edge here, or just the tape itself, lines up well with this edge here. Like I can see it's not, my tape isn't crooked. All right, and then from there, we do the same process. But again, just check. Just to back myself up. Okay, good. Same thing. Just nice and easy. Very lightly. Just the weight of the scribe. Just let it do its work. There's no like you need to do 3 passes or you need to do 5 passes. You can do 23 passes if you want. It's completely up to you. There's no rush. Trying to pull them off. Okay. Initial line created. But this time I'll keep the tape on to help guide me. That. And then I'll finish this line. Okay, there we go. Boom, we have our lines. Can't see this one too well because it has primer inside of it, but there we go. That's it, and then we sand it down until we remove that raised area, because when you run your finger across it, you can feel it, that flashing. If you run across there. So for that, you can use 1,000 grit. You can also use a 600. I like to do 600 because I'm a little aggressive with it. I like to just get it off, and then I could smooth it down after with 1,000. That's just me. You can use 1,000. That's fine too. Let's see. Another question: is it your recommendation to scribe before or after priming? Generally, doesn't matter. It's so you can do both. That is a personal preference for the sake of this lesson, so you guys can see. I prime these parts, but personally, most generally, you want to do just scribe it first and then prime it after. So what the primer will do, it'll fill in any imperfections in the plastic, and it'll show you any, like, say, mistakes that you've made that you didn't notice when you were working before. So it's like you can do both, but generally you want to like scribe the lines first, sand it down, prime it, because you use like say like a for example, like I use Mr. Surfacer for my primer. I mean, you can use Alclad, you can use splash paints. I mean, there's all sorts of primers out there. Um, but I use Mr. Surfacer 1000, so it's like a thin primer and it fills in any imperfections. So that's why you want to scribe first, and then you can see what areas you messed up on. Or if you didn't mess up, and then boom, you're good to go. That part is ready for colors. Does that answer your question? So yeah, Matt said, so yeah, using the primer here for visibility, yes. Um, because I'm the next part of this lesson, I'm going to talk about like removing screw ups or like your scribe going off and fixing spots, which it's easier to do it with the bare plastic. You can do it with primer on it, but it's just it's better with just the bare plastic. Okay, but
Oh,
let's see. Blake said, do you approach every type of plastic the same for scribing? For example, I've found some ABS runners super soft and hard to scribe. So I do the same approach. That's something where you have to get a feel for like you recognize like that plastic is brittle or it's soft. So it's like when you're working, you just have to exercise that bit of caution when going into it. But I mean, the general thumb rules and apply. Let's see, send this down. Oh, you're very welcome. All right, so you notice I still have the primer on there. That's okay. So it's like here's the original, like the plastic exposed, and you have the primer here. Like it's okay. You just follow through with another round of primer to even it all out. But it's like it's okay to sand and still have primer. You don't need to have this whole area back down to bare plastic. As long as you feel over it, that flashing is gone. It's smooth. Take your microfiber rack and you can remove that dust that's inside. Simple. Boom. Let's see. Zach asked, would you say some scribes are better than others? I'm using the same as yours, but I've heard a lot about the SAB scribes being some of the best. So a lot of it is like just personal um, preference. I know a lot of it goes to the type of material that is used to make those said chisels, whether it's like a titanium or steel. Uh, like so it is one harder than the other. So it's like, does your tip of your chisel break easily? Does it wear down faster? Personally, that the one that we're both using, I've used the same chisel like at least 2 years now, the same one. And yeah, it's worn down a little bit, but not anywhere near to where it's like forced me to do an all stop and for me to get a brand new chisel. Like it does the job. It doesn't require me to do any like additional pressing on the plastic or like change anything up. So there are, so in short, to answer your question, yes, there are some that are better. Um, but ultimately, I mean, it's just up to the user. Um, the one I've used, I think it's perfect. But that's just me. So like what I'm using or what you're using, the next person might think it's not good at all. But with my experience, like I think it's a great chisel. But yes, I have heard about the SAB ones, and yeah, they are good. They are good though. Okay, does that answer your question? All right, not a problem at all. Okay. All right, so we're about halfway through right now. I'm gonna take a quick 2-minute intermission. Just stand up, get some water or something to drink. Um, Do you have any questions you can send my way that aren't pertinent to like this specific lesson that I'm talking about now? Feel free, fire away. So it's 6:14 now. I know that's a short break. Normally I would like to do a 5 or a 10 minute, but to keep this in our time constraints and just something short, if you need to use the restroom, let's make it a 5 minute break. So it's 6:14 on this end. So probably what is that, 9:14 over on the East Coast. So let's just make this like a 5 minute. So we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. So use the restroom, get a bite to eat. Asperger's. Here's a question. Have you been doing your push-ups, sir? First off, I don't do push-ups. I do bench press. So check yourself. No, so I have a messed up shoulder, so I don't do as much push-ups as I used to. Um, I was a command fitness leader at my command, and so I was in my best shape then. I was doing probably like 100 push-ups, like real push-ups, not like Navy push-ups. But right now, um, I do like 20 push-ups, and like I'm feeling it in my shoulder real bad. So yeah, I'm on that. I'm on the bench press for sure. Plus also, being 37 too, I feel that as well. So yeah, you definitely got the message. No, what is your challenge? I didn't see it. I'm sorry. So you kicked it off. So you just started it too. Work for most, start with 10 on a first app by every day. Okay. That's something I would definitely be interested in. I'll definitely take you up on that. So that means, let's see, start with 10 on May 1st. So today's the 4th. So yeah, I just gotta do 25. Yeah, 25. Let's see. So let's see. I'm just going over my lesson plan. Yep. Scribing designs, tape placement. Okay, perfect. So second half will be removing bad lines. So that works out great. So either incline or triangles, but feel free to do whatever doesn't hurt you further. I do like doing triangles. I don't know why. Like a lot of people struggle with that one, but yeah, personally, I don't know. I enjoy it. I don't know. I feel like it's less pressure on my shoulder when doing this than if I'm just doing a thing. Oh, okay. Thank you. Watching. Okay. All right, 1 minute, and then we'll kick things off again. I figured it was. Almost. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get this started, and let's do the fun part everyone's been asking about. All right, so let's make some mistakes. All right. But first, I want to talk about, so we talked about reference points. What if you have a part that doesn't have reference points? Like you just have like some bare basic, no details at all. Like, how do you make lines on that? How do you make symmetry on that? And so we're going to talk about that. All right, so this is a front skirt part of that Psycho Zaku. On this side, I already have a part that I taped up for what I want to do on it. And then just so I can get symmetry and know exactly the design I want. Okay, so design I'm going for is, let me prep this part. Okay. There we go. So I want to do, let's see. Good. One on line here. And then let's see. Something along the lines of the line that goes up. Right there. And the line there. We'll start with that, and then after, I can like build off of it and make another line if I want. But all right, so for the sake of this though, we're gonna make this and we're gonna break it. Okay. Tape. Everything placed how I want it. And so the only reference point I have on this is I have this raised edge right here. So I gotta start somewhere. So I'll start with my tape along that edge. Like so. Okay. And it's okay if it's not directly in line with your design that you're doing. That's okay. As long as you have a generalized idea of where you want your tape. So for this part, this one here, so I only have 2mm scribe tape I'm using. I don't have a 3 or 4mm, so it's like, what am I gonna do for, say, like putting this piece of tape along here, or like this center tape along here? So you just get another piece of tape, apply it here, and then your tape here, and then you can remove that tape. So you can kind of, it helps space it out. So I'll do that. I'm going to do it along this top edge here. And then I'll apply another piece of tape. I'll apply it right up against this tape here. Remove the tape. There we go. So now we have some space. And then we start applying the rest of the tape. So let's see. So the next tape we'll use is, so we'll get a tape from this corner right there, and then we'll run it along here. So this is, in this instance, we have one reference point, which is a corner that's right here that we're going to use. Now we're going to run the edge of that tape from here down to here. So what we're going to look out for is this is where the eyeball part is going to come. So we'll see that this line here runs parallel with this edge here, and there's an even amount of spacing for here to here. Understand that right here is tapered off, but we're here to here. All right, so we're going to apply a tape to go from down here, this edge, down to here. Long tape. Apply it. This is where some eyeballing does come into effect. Not much though, nothing crazy. So all I did was I took the edge of my tape, I put it along this corner here, this opening, and then I ran it through here, but I kept in mind that I had even spacing between at least right here and right here. So it gave me an idea that like that's a good. But I'll verify symmetry too. So that's what you just take side by side. I know it's a little difficult with the overlapping tape. My hand's shaking. But yeah, that looks good. All right, so we got symmetry. And then we'll apply our last piece of tape and then we'll create the lines. This one here. And I like to look at the last piece I did just so I can see how I placed it. So it looks like for this one's a little off actually. This one might be a little more tricky. It might be a little tough to see. So let me see if I can. Okay. So on this tape that's running across here, I mean, the bottom, so my reference point will be the bottom of this tape will become a point with this tape running along here. So it's going to meet a point on the edge of this part. All right, so the bottom of the tape, I'm sorry, bottom of the tape will run here. The top of the tape, and I understand, like I know it's a little off, I'm about to adjust it, but we'll meet with these crossing tapes here. So all three of these tapes will cross at this point here. And then I'll verify for symmetry. But let me adjust it first. Just tweak it a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to put it on the other one and I'm going to verify symmetry before I make any lines. And then we'll break it on purpose. And I know this is a build I'm working on, but I don't mind because we now know how to fix it. Oh, let me put a spacer right here. It didn't do that earlier. I got sidetracked. Okay, there we go. Now that makes sense. Okay. So when some of the scribe tape will not adhere as well at times to other tape that you have layered on. So if you need to, you can get a fresh piece and put it in there. So okay, so let's check for symmetry. All right, so tape placement. I think it looks good. Everything looks pretty symmetrical. All right, I feel comfortable. I feel good. I'm ready to make my lines. Right, and then so we'll do the same process. So I'll go nice and easy. So I'll make the initial lines and I'll start breaking things. But first I want it to be symmetrical. Okay. I'll move a little at a little bit of a faster pace. So what I'm doing is, you notice how I didn't start from here and go from here down to there. You want to do one line at a time. You work in each line. So when I go from this line, I twist my chisel, and then I go down the adjacent line. So I get that. And now I work from the opposite side. It's easier to work with. And I'm going to go from here to here to here. So Redford asks, what about lines you can't complete in one stroke? Let's see. Are you referring to like going around edges, or like a line's kind of being finicky and you need to like slowly work the line? Oh, really long lines. Okay. So really long lines, uh, you just run your chisel as normal. It doesn't need to be one long continuous stroke all the way through. Like you can go to, so it's like you can make your line or start with your line, get to about halfway, adjust yourself or move around as you need to reorient yourself or orientate yourself, and then you can continue your line. All right, then I'll remove this tape, but I'm going to keep one other piece of tape. Let's see. You can see it there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish this line here. So I guess like someone answers your question. So it's like I don't have anything scribed here, but I have a deep line here. So I slowly work this part of the plastic and I make this deeper. And then eventually it's going to be as deep as this line. It's nice and easy, no rush. Reorientate myself. And then eventually you're going to feel your chisel raise up a little bit between this line you had here and then this new line, because it's raising over this uh, not so shallow plastic here. So now it's all becoming one deep line. Boom. Okay. And this is good. So it's like, there's our line. We got something. And then that's where we can come in. It's like, okay, well, I got a deep line here. It's like, I know for sure I want this line. Well, not really a fan of this line here. You know what? I don't like that. So we should probably get rid of it. Or maybe it's like, well, maybe I can add something to it. So it's like you can build off of it. That's where I said it all starts with one line. So we started with our line and we worked on reference points. And it's like then from here, it's like you can, you know, go whatever direction you want to go, or that's where it's like, oh, I can go here and do a line right there. So, yeah, okay. All right. So have the initial lines on this one. Let me make them on this one, and then we'll get into fixing lines and removing them too. So something I don't think I mentioned earlier is that when you sand a part down prior to scribing, there's less likeliness of your chisel running off from your tape, going off in its own direction. My initial lines. Just moving a little bit with purpose. Okay, there's that one, that one. Remove my tape. And then let's see. Let's make this one here. Oh, oops. Oh man, my scribe just went off. Oh, can't see it. Let's make it a little deeper. All right, so now it's like, oh, we got to go into damage control. There we go. You can see it right there. So it's like I got a deep line there. Also, I decided I don't like how this design looks. So I just want to get rid of it as a whole. So we're just going to completely get rid of this. And we're going to start from 0. So that's where we come into our various techniques that we have for fixing mistakes, or removing shallow lines and removing deep lines. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do. So earlier, how I mentioned where I like to make the line shallow first to see where I'm at. By doing that, if I don't like it, I can simply just sand it off. And then that is where I'll come in with a 225. That will get into the plastic, it will remove it. If it's a deep line, it's not going to remove it. You got to use like a cement, putty, a glue to get in there. And we're about to talk about that. So in this part of the lesson here, this is where, fire away with the questions. If you got an example, bring it up. Like again, like this is the most asked about thing about scribing. This is what makes scribing intimidating, because it's like you spent X amount of dollars on a kit and it's like you don't want it to be ruined, so how do we fix it? And by knowing how to fix it, you in turn feel more comfortable with just the overall process. So it really gives you a strong foundation to build on. All right, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove a shallow line. So this line right here, might be a little too deep, but this line right here is fairly shallow. So when you're sanding into the plastic, you're not going to sand a hole right through all the way through like the plastic. Like most of the time, like the plastic is thick enough to where, you can take the top layer off and it's fine. Something to be mindful of though, when you're sanding, let's say like a sanding stick versus, oops, or I'm sorry, sanding sponge versus like a sanding stick, is that with a sanding sponge, if you're not paying attention, you're sanding away at it. If you're applying pressure, eventually you're going to round your edges. So this edge here will become round. This edge here will become round. It's like you don't want that. So it's like something you just have to be mindful of. So it's like you don't want to press too much, and just like use a corner and slowly, work it in. And then some spots require more working in. And then we're just going to sand the crap out of it. All right, so, but in this example, again, I'm just going to be aggressive on it. And so this is a build that like I'm actively doing. Like there's a commission, or no, I'm sorry, commission. There's a competition in September. Like this build is going to be in. So it's like, oh, I made a mistake. Hey, no big deal. I'm going to fix it. And then you're going to be able to do it with your builds too. So I'm just going in with this, low grit sander. Then I'm going to follow through with the 600. Start smoothing that surface out because it's been broken down. This is a part of the process that takes a little time, so there's no rush. And so it's like, okay, let's take a look. Well, looks like that line is still there. All right, let's work it in. A little more pressure. Looks like that line's gone. Now let's smooth that surface out. And I am tracking that other line that is still visible. We'll get to that. And we'll get to that other one that I just made too. All right. So there you go. The line's gone. But now I got this other line though that's real deep, and I got this other one that's super deep. All right. So one method that you can do, and let me wipe out the dust from this, is that you can use a cement. You can also use glue as well. But for some, so a line that's, it's deep, but it's not too deep. So it's like I was able to remove this line here. Now I'm going in on this line right there that's still visible. Camera quality's not all that. There we go. That line there. So you can do with this is that you can simply take your extra thin cement if you'd like, and you can put it in there, one little dab, that'll literally melt the plastic. And so when I say melt the plastic, that's not something, where it's like, oh my God, it's going to ruin everything. It'll just melt the surface around it. And so when you do this, it'll take a couple minutes to fully dry. So you just get in there and you just put it in there as such. Put it in there. All right. And then as that's drying, we'll talk about this other line. All right. So we got this super thick line here, very deep. I made sure to put some pressure into it. I can show. It's a great iPhone camera. There we go. So this line right here. Okay. So for this, I'm going to use some tomato putty. All you need is just a little dab of it. Just a little bit on your finger, nothing crazy. And this dries quickly. So you just push it in there into that bad area. So make sure it fills it. And then it takes about maybe a minute to dry. But in the meantime, though, it's like, say, what if I have other scribed lines in this area that I want to keep? I mean, before it like starts adhering and starts to melt to the plastic, those crevices that have been made, the scribed lines, you can quickly just run your chisel, like run it in right in there. And so it's like this small area here is no longer filled. So it's still drying, and then so we'll just quickly run our chisel through it right here real quick. So you want to do it as soon as you apply it, because if you wait a little while, it's already adhering to the plastic. So if you run your chisel through it, you're going to pull up some more plastic because it's, like I said, it's melting, it's adhering. So, right. Already feels like it's starting to dry. So I only did a little bit, and it's like it stuck to your finger. I just use my low grit sanding sponge, and like I could just take it off my finger real quick. For the most part, it's gone. Okay. All right. Let's take our 600 grit sanding sponge, And let's sand it, see what we come up with. This one here, I'm just gonna go to town. Okay, so when you're sanding, what I'm doing right now is I'm feeling the other areas of where the putty was at. So if there's some areas that are still raised, I'll just hit those up real quick. That edge too. So you're probably thinking where it's like, oh, well, I didn't get it all. It's actually fine because it's now filled out imperfections, even spots like here, and it's even fused into the plastic. This clear line that you can see, a nice little custom line here. You can see it's filled in there. So as soon as I run primer on it, that line's gone. But in the meantime, we can continue what we're doing. We can move on. Like I can, put my tape back down. I can finish this line here. Does anyone have any questions though? Because I know there's many ways to fill lines. We were talking about using the CA glue, using putty, using cement. It depends. And what I mean by that is if you have a really deep line, you're going to want to use like a cement, a glue or like a putty. So using this putty, when it dries, I will say it's not as strong as the plastic. Like it's not as hard as it. So it doesn't adhere as like this thick of like the plastic would, or like say how a glue would. Okay, so we're going to switch gears now, and Willer is going to demo the CO glue with the baby powder. All right, please feel free to take it away.
Okay. Oh. Give me a second.
A little bit of going. Is your screen lock on?
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is I just put a little bit of tape down here on this mat here, and what you see here is a little bit of baby powder. So I'm gonna put a little bit, I usually just put it on a little bit of like, just regular tape so that I can just throw it out later and it's somewhere I can kind of work on. You can use like medium CA glue. And then what you have to do is just kind of mix up the baby powder together with the glue a little bit until you kind of end up with a little bit of a paste. Can you guys see that? Here, let me get a little bit closer. Can you guys see this happening?
A little bit. Let's switch gears so I can expand your screen.
Okay. Here, let me just switch, or let me go and change. To spotlight. Okay. Is that working?
That's like the most popular.
There we go. Okay. So, can you guys see me now? Is it better? Is it bigger?
Yeah. Is your screen lock on? Is that you're having that same vertical issue as earlier that I had?
That you had? Okay, just let me check here. There we go. Okay. So what I did really here, all I did really here is mix a little bit of baby powder together with a CA glue and to like get kind of like an interesting consistency like this. It's almost like whitish clear. And then you apply it the same way like putty in general. Let's see if I can make this thing so it stays in place. Oh, did I lose you guys? No. Give me a second. Okay. There we go. So I scribed some lines on this harrow right there. And I just kind of left the sanding dust in there so you can kind of see how the lines are. Can you guys see that? Oh, is it doing that thing again?
It's doing that thing again. There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, so I scribed some lines here on the front chest piece here of the harrow. And so I'm gonna fill it up now with this paste that I made. I'm just check this. I'm gonna remove some of that dust first that I put in there. And just kind of the same idea as what Gunpla Customs was doing with the putty. You just kind of put some in there where the line is. With like a toothpick, works pretty well. The paste was baby powder and CA glue. So if you've got one of the packages, the scribing packages that we had on the website, I threw some CA glue in there anyways. But it's pretty easy to get any hobby shop. We have them in the shop too. Madworks makes some. Bob Smith Industries has like some bigger bottles like these ones here. And it's essentially what you have too, right? Gunpla Customs, but you've got the thick stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, then all you have to do really is just kind of fill it up very easily with something pointy, right? So you can actually kind of squeeze things in. If you have too much, you can kind of just remove the excess a little bit after and just wipe it off. I don't have all my tools with me right now, guys, so I'm doing what I can. But you do that, and then it just fills up all the little. This is also optional right now because I mean this should dry within about 12 seconds, 12 to 30 seconds, 12 to 20 seconds, but you can add some accelerant to it and it speeds it up a little bit. And Zach, yes, it does dry a little bit harder than the plastic, obviously, and that's why the baby powder is there to give that kind of consistency so that it feels a little bit more like plastic. Alternatively, you can also use baking soda as well. So that's how it would end up. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and then you just sand that away, and then you've pretty much got, you know, what you had before, except that the line now just looks clear. So it's the same idea. You just have to kind of visualize it and know that it's there. It's a good idea to maybe prime it at this point so that you don't see those lines that that you've already made, and then you'll have a clean surface to work with. And for the ratio, it's pretty much dependent on how much glue you have there. So if you poured it, quite a bit of glue here, you just kind of keep adding to it until it's a paste that you can kind of work with. And that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions about this? It's really dry, so I can just start sanding it now already. I don't have any sponges right now, I'm sorry. So I'm just gonna use
Asperger said he answered his question from last night. Or at least he
Awesome.
thinks.
Well, if you do have any other questions about this, we can definitely talk about this later on. So, and on that, I will pass you back over to Gunpla Customs.
All right. Thank you for that very much. All right. So we are at the end of the session. So we have plenty of time left though. So it's over, but it's not over. All right. So this is the part of the session where we're open range questions. Like anything could be asked. All right. So we got about, let's see, about an hour and a half or so into it, and we've got about 20-30 minutes left. So ask any questions, or if there's any sidebar questions, you can message me individually, and I'm more than happy. We can do a video, whatever works, face to face, and we can touch base as well. All right, so floor is yours, everyone. Let's see. All right, so Death asked, how do you come up with the line designs? I struggle with that part a lot. I struggle too sometimes with it. So inspiration wise, I look at other builders. I look at my fellow bots. I look at a lot of builders that have mentored me. I look at them and see how they make their lines, or a style that they go with. So like I said, it always makes like what makes sense. It's like the style. It's like, do you look at something where you want something to just be purely like mechanical base. Like if it was in the field, would it make sense for like to have lines in a certain area, for an armor? So for this shield right here, it's like I added these plug plates here, but I scribed these lines specific to this. It's like, does it make sense to have those lines there? Like, would that be used in a real world application? And like, what would the purpose of having lines there? You know, or do you just going for like, I just think it looks cool, which is completely fine because that's how I do it. I do a little bit if it makes sense, but I like to do if it looks cool. But I usually just do like basic lines. Like there's people out there that will have like lines all over this whole thing and way more than what I have. And it's like that's their style. That's how they go with it. But for me, as far as like inspiration to answer your question, that's what the pencil's for. You just make the lines, and if it's a line that you feel comfortable with, a design you feel comfortable with, one line at a time. Build off that one line. One line becomes two lines. Two lines becomes four lines. Four becomes six. Whatever. But I just look at other builders and I see what they do, and like I try to apply it to my build. Um, this being a Xeon build, it's round. It's a bit of a pain. Honestly, this shield was the easiest part of this build to scribe. For the Federation builds, though, I would highly recommend, being new to the scribing, work on those, your Gundams, your GMs, your Jestas, anything, because it has those flat, hard surfaces. So it's easy to go around like the back of the leg to the front of the leg to the side of the leg, to like connect the lines, to go from those points there. So let me grab a build real quick. And I'm going to grab this Jesta that I've been working on. This is my on-off project of like 2 years. I don't think I'll ever finish it. But so it's like, I'll pop that off. And the reason why I have it's all white on the lines is because I left the dust in there so you can see. I mean, even with the camera quality. Thank you, Death. So it's like for the back of this leg, for example, I just ran my 2mm tape around here. I started with a rectangle. And then from there, it's like, oh, well, I want to have lines that wrap around the leg. And it's like, okay, well, I want to have the lines start from here. So like, how did I get this step up here? And so it's like, then I ran my tape, the bottom of my tape from there. And then I started to make my lines from those points there. So it's like, and then you go to the other side of the leg and you're like, holy crap, like you got all sorts of stuff going on here. Like, how in the world did you do that? And again, it's like, I started with my reference point. So it's like, I have this initial line here that is running off of here. And so it's like, I have a spot right there. I have a point. That's my reference point. Okay. So like, okay. So now, then you start playing with the tape. You notice here that thickness, that's that 2mm thickness. So I had a long piece of tape that ran from here all the way to that corner. Oops, right there. And it's like, okay, well, I built off of that, and then so on and so forth, So you see like all these lines, you're like, holy crap, like I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, 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 you can. One line at a time, I promise you. Like this might seem like super advanced, okay, it might be a little intermediate, but like it's not the best out there. There's far more advanced line designs and all of that. I just did something that I thought looked cool and I just kind of ran with it. And also on the inside of this leg here, I did a screw up here because I wasn't paying attention to my symmetry, which when it comes to painting, I will put some putty in there and prime it to where it matches the inside of here, where it doesn't have all that craziness going on. So, yeah. Let's see. How would you describe curves, as in swirls or waves? Okay. It was a little more advanced. Actually, it is advanced. Honestly, your scribe tape here, like your generic scribe tape, not going to do the job. There is the round scribe tape out there that to show me that is in the Show Me What You Bought store. Did have some on hand. Of course, I didn't have it for this. That might be something that's covered in the Gunpla Luke section, but if it's not, what you can do is start by using this masking tape. So let me grab some. I have some right here. So let me peel it off of my other hobby mat. I have like quite a few in the shop. All right. So I got my masking tape. I have a round edge right here on my hobby mat. And of course, there are better hobby mats out there that have like, like the circles in them and they like scale up. You can, definitely use those. And you just simply apply your scribe, or I keep saying scribe tape, I'm sorry, your masking tape. Masking tape. So Willer said you would have to freehand or make stencils. Godhand makes specific chisels for freehanding. So it's like, for me, in this instance, like I like to just use the masking tape. And so you might not be able to see it with the camera. I can't see it too well with it. I doubt you guys can. But I can see this line. So I would just basically cut that out. Even if it's like a swirl or circle, and just run my knife along it carefully to make sure I stay with a round edge. I don't think I used enough pressure. Nope, I did. Okay. So it's like, all right, now I got my round edge. Let me see. What do I want to break? All right, let's break this Akusum. Okay. I'm just going to throw it on there. So it's like, I want a round edge, a round line from here. Where's my pencil? There it is. Whoop. Okay. I'm just going to do a line from, say, right here. And I just want something round. Because I have round right here. I want something that makes sense that matches that, right? Let's get our masking tape. Okay, let's go the opposite direction. So I'm going to put my edge of my tape at that bottom here. And I'm just going to, this is where you just play around with it. Like, how does it look? Does it make sense? It's like, all right, I'm just going to do it right here. Take your time. Take your time. Please take your time. Masking tape, it's very thin. It's not hard like scribe tape. So you do run your chisel along the edge, but it can easily come off. It can go this way or it can go this way into your plastic. So this is where you really, really, really need to take your time. Like I can't emphasize that enough. And let the weight of the chisel do all the work. And if you need to do 20, 30, 40 passes on it, so be it. But you will get your round line. Does that answer your question? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to send it. I'm just going to cement it after YOLO. Okay, so I'll try to work the angle best. So again, bear with me. Yes, Willer said it the best. Slow. Like if it takes you 30 minutes to do it, you're doing it right. If it takes longer, you're doing it even better. So, but for the sake of this, I don't want to waste your guys' time. I know it's getting late on the East Coast, so I'm going to try to move with a purpose, but at the same time, not go nuclear. All right, so very carefully. And it's not going to be a clean line either. It might be, sometimes it's not. And I'm not putting any of my body's pressure on it. And yes, Willer's absolutely correct. You can fix it later. Now you guys should know how to fix it. But if you don't, feel free to reach out to any one of us. We'll be more than happy to help you through the process. All right, so you can start to see, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm starting to have some plastic come off. So I'm making an impression on the plastic. So let me just make another run on it. Again, the chisel is the only weight that is on this, not my hand, nothing. So I'm slowly
I feel a groove now. I do feel the line being made. And I'm gonna go a little bit faster now that I do feel it through my chisel. All right, let's remove the tape. Drum roll. Da, 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 da. Yeah. All right. Let's see if I can get that light on it. Maybe the reflection. Can you guys see it, or do I need to make this deeper? I can make it deeper. I really don't care. I'll literally just submit it. All right, let me make it deeper because I can barely see it. So I'm sure you guys can. I have my line. Again, just a way to describe. I'm pretty much freehanding, but at the same time, my scribe does have a guide. There is a line in there. I know you might not be able to see it, but it is in there. Boom, we got ourselves a clean line. And I can really just move with purpose. And let me just push this part right there because my plastic is being finicky. So when I say the plastic's being finicky, like you'll make your line, it'll be like some impeding plastic in the way. For some reason, you're trying to scribe the line and your scribe just keeps going in other directions. Again, your scribe is a chisel first and foremost. So that's where you just get in at an angle and you just lightly just push and guide your scribe to continue the line. And then, okay, you got the obstruction out of the way, and you just go back to it. All right, so let's see. Can you guys see it at all? Let me try to get it closer. Adjust my lighting. Maybe I shouldn't have done a red build. Maybe I should have done like green or something. But can you guys see the line at all or no? Can you see it, Willard? Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's how you do that. Slow. That masking tape is dangerous. I was lucky this time. It was cooperative. There are times where it's super finicky and it's just not working. But that's where you kind of gotta like work your chisel in different angles and whatnot. So all right. So does anyone have any other questions on that or anything else? Get light out of my face. Okay. So pace yourself. Okay. Any questions before we wrap things up? Ask anything. I mean, as long as it's on topic, ask anything. I'm just waiting because I know some people are, including myself, are slow typers. I'm a very slow typer. I just like constantly fat finger stuff all the time. Okay. It doesn't look like there's any more questions. Does anyone? Oh, okay, awesome. We do have a question. All right. Would you start with a small chisel and work up to a larger one? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Reason being for that is your chisel, your thin chisel, you have your initial line, like you have your deep line, you're good to go. All right. So, all right. And this is something that will heavily be talked about in gun pollute section. All right. So let me pull this shoulder off. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let me adjust my lighting. Yes, Willer is absolutely correct. As always, start small, go big. So with here, I use, you can tell 2mm tape right here. You can tell how thick it is. Right here, I did 2 pieces of the 2mm tape. Actually, no, I lied to you. I'm sorry. I used 2mm tape here. Describe my initial line. I did another piece of 2mm tape here. Describe that line, that parallel line. Now these other lines, these lines going this way, you can see, again, 2mm thickness here. I just ran the line from here to here on both sides. Now I have this spot here that's chiseled out. Like, what's up with that? That's where I did some eyeballing. And so I ran another piece of tape from here to here, from the upper edge here. And then for this edge here, I ran another piece of tape. I lightly did my lines. I removed the tape and I saw I had my 2 lines here. And then I did a 4mm, like we were talking about earlier, a 4mm chisel, and I slowly worked it out. So initially you'll start with a scrub, like your initial passing technique, as if you're doing a line, just very light, let it run its course. The reason why I did those lines is because the larger chisels need something to guide them. It's very hard to do chiseling with wider ones without like a guide. And then after that, if I needed to, I pushed it out, did a pushing motion to slowly work out the little plastic that might be on this edge here or on this edge here. But for the center, I just did your general passing technique, and that is going to be covered in the Gunpla loop section. All right. So, all right. I think we're at a good stopping point. So anyone that has any questions or wants to reach out to me or any of the team members, feel free on the side. We're always more than happy to answer your questions, and more than happy to do one-on-one sessions, like whether it's, we're just typing to each other, or, we could do a one-on-one visual like this. We can definitely do this. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So from what we gained from this class here, we talked about the tools that we use. So we talked about scribing tape, chisels, putties, glue, simple pencil, X-Acto knife, or, as they say in the Lego movie, blade of Exact Zero, various sizes of scribing tape, designs, initial line creating. So using the weight of the chisel, and then from there, once you have that initial line, then start going a little heavier, and then verifying the symmetry before you even make those lines. Make sure both of your parts are good to go, especially, you're doing the arms, you're doing the legs, you're doing the, the skirt of the armor, and the left and right side, verifying that symmetry, removing the bad lines, which is the most important. That's what is intimidating about describing. So again, we can cover that whenever, any sidebars, not just myself, any of the team members. So again, that's all I have. I really thank all of you for your time. Again, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help, and I'm glad you guys had a great time. So thank you so much for everything. All right. I think we can go ahead and wrap this up. Anytime, Redford and everybody else. All right, let's go ahead and, I guess, Willard, do you want to take over? Yeah. Just go ahead and close this out.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, just going to read quickly what everybody said. Like, it seems like everybody's really happy that, we did this. It's been informative. Sunil said, saved them a lot of time trying to trial and error this out. And yeah, that's one of the big reasons why we wanted to do this, is just so that there's less, less things where you just have to question what you're doing. It's nice to have a starting point where, there's a basic foundation for what you guys are doing here. And from that point on, it's all about really asking questions and feeling comfortable breaking things, like, like we were saying earlier, and feeling comfortable asking anybody around on the team, on the server. And, as you keep doing this, you just build confidence with this.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, I guess just thank you everybody for joining us today. I think this was a good first workshop that we managed to go, albeit some of the technical difficulties we had and me just having finished moving. But I'm sure as time goes by, these will come together a lot more smoothly.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Any feedback?
Oh, Zach has a great question. When will the next scribing workshop be?
We have it scheduled for the 18th of May.
So 18th.
Yeah.
What time?
We don't know yet. I have to talk to Luke to see when it works best for him. I'm going to see if I can get him to do it around the same time. It just depends because he's on the East Coast. Is he on the East Coast? Yes, he is.
Yeah, he is.
So he's on the East Coast, so it's going to be, depending on what his schedule's like, we might have to start a little bit earlier in Pacific Standard Time. But we'll keep you guys posted within the week or so. I'm going to be posting information about the next workshop probably closer to the end of this week when I've settled in. My place is a disaster right now. I actually don't know where anything is. Oh, I've got about 3 days to kind of reorganize my life to get the shop back up and running, and I'll be able to let you guys know where everything's at soon.
All right.
What else? Yeah, and I think this is good.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us today. And thank you, Gunpla Customs, for doing the presentation. This was awesome. I do
As
appreciate
always, a pleasure. Always happy to support my fellow builders and the community.
it. Awesome. Okay, well, everybody, thank you so much. And if you guys want to, you could just hop into VC on Discord right now if you guys want to chat a little bit, get some building done in and whatnot. I'll probably hop in there. I see Maker was in there earlier, kind of putting around in there. Well, thank you, everybody. And we're going to close off the session now.
Okay. All right. Take care. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, everybody. See you soon.
Goodbye.